Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so we have game 3 of the Mavericks and the Dallas and the Mavericks. Minnesota and Mavericks going at it. The series shifts back to Dallas. Mavericks won the first 2 games. My prediction stands at 6 for the Mavericks. And I have a hard time seeing the Mavericks sweeping the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't think they have that much of a stranglehold on the matchups. But what I'm learning about these playoffs is, just like with the Lakers series, when the Lakers were up a good majority of the time but couldn't close, that's kind of what I'm sensing is a similar type of dynamic going on here. As to where you can have leads. I'm seeing in the Eastern Conference Finals as well. You can have leads, but if you can't close or if you make poor decisions, it's still going to lead to you losing basketball games. And Dallas Mavericks have just been executing a little better. Luka Doncic was able to get the last shot off in front of Rudy Gobert. That switch should have never happened. Those are the little mistakes that ultimately cost you the game. And the teams that don't make those mistakes move on. The teams that do go home. And that's really what it is. It's a small margin for error for a lot of these teams who I think if they just made some better decisions would be around. Like the Pacers, for example. This probably stands more for the Pacers series than the Minnesota-Dallas series. If you just make a couple different decisions in both game 1 and game 3, you're up 2-1. And so what I was looking at in regards to my prediction with the Pacers series was seeing some of the elements that I'm seeing succeed being able to be enough. But I didn't incorporate Rick Carlisle's decision-making being a hindrance to the basketball club. Like I told y'all, the injury Nembhard was the truth. So him going for 30 and 9 or something like that, whatever it was, didn't surprise me. Because I already told y'all I saw good things coming for him in this series. I already knew TJ McConnell was going to have a good series. I'm not surprised to see Pascal Siakam have his way out there in certain situations. But if you're not going to call timeouts in certain situations, if you're Carlisle, if you're not going to foul when you're up 3 and you allow a great player like Jaylen Brown to get a corner 3 off, cost you a basketball game. I mean, these are the type of things that just are going to be the difference. I remember having a conversation with my boy T a long time ago. I don't know if he still feels this way now, but he said that coaching doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who coaches the team. It's all about the roster, But these are the circumstances where you can have a good roster, but if your coach gets in the way with certain things that are a coach's responsibility, then you're still going to lose. And that's what you're seeing happening with the Lakers, with Darvin Ham, why we're not around anymore, why we had such a poor season. It's because of his choices. He got in the way. The roster was better than what he made it look like. You know what I mean? And with Rick Carlisle, all the stuff that I saw in my prediction, which was Pacers in 7, could have come to pass. He could be up 2-1 right now with another game in his house. Instead, he's down 0-3. Only one of those games where you can honestly say, they didn't have a chance. And that was game 2, which was already worked into my prediction. You saw game 2 coming. What you didn't see was him making mistakes in game 1 and then blowing a 18-point lead in game 3. You didn't see that. If they hold on to both of those leads, 2-1 series, Pacers up. So, I think that tells the story for me of these playoffs. In a lot of cases, certain situations don't have to look as bad as they do. If these teams would just have made better decisions, you would have seen opportunities for these series to go differently. Maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers could have extended their series past 5 games if they didn't have such injury issues. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Maybe if the Orlando Magic could have just held on to the lead they had at halftime in Game 7 when they were up by 10 or whatever it was against the Cavaliers, maybe they're moving on and giving us a different series, It's a lot of different things. So I just think that that's really the story of these playoffs, the small margin for error that a lot of these teams have had in their situations where they're getting eliminated just because they weren't able to capitalize on those small margins. And, the Pacers are down 0-3. No one thinks they're coming back. You're not beating the Celtics 4 times in a row after losing 3 straight against them when they have home court advantage, especially. You may be able to get game 4 but I don't think anybody's confident there. And, you know, you got to look at Carlisle and wonder, how the hell did you even win a championship with the Mavericks if this is your type of decision making when it's time for crunch time situations to take place, and you have a philosophy that hurts you and bites you more than once in the same playoffs? Didn't he get bitten by this with the Knicks too? When we were up by 3, he didn't foul, and they hit a 3, and then we were fouled on the 3-point shot or something like that. Something weird like that took place. And he didn't learn that lesson or change his philosophy, and it bit him again. It's like, bro, I didn't have you worked into the equation. Had I known you were going to be a terrible decision maker, I'd have definitely picked against your team, you know? And so these are the type of things. I don't think the players will let me down with the Pacers. I really don't. I think the players have done well. Halliburton getting hurt was unfortunate, but I don't think it cost the Pacers too much because they had great play from their guards. That production was made up. You know, I could argue Nembhard played better than how Tyrese Halliburton was expected to play in Game 3. They had an 18-point lead. And down the stretch of the basketball game, their lack of defense hurt them. You know, their unwillingness to play hard defense down the stretch of basketball games. I said it halfway through the season. The Pacers ain't doing nothing unless they get defense going for themselves. Until they learn to respect the defensive end to where they have urgency about getting stops where necessary, they're going to lose. And I wish I would have incorporated that more so into my thinking when picking them to win the series against the Celtics. And you got to give credit to guys like Jrue Holiday. That play he made down the stretch on Nembhard, you can't try to dribble the ball in that situation in front of an all-world defender like Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday's taking the ball away from better players in bigger moments. And so you just left yourself in a bad situation when you tore around like that. It's something LeBron said that made a lot of sense to me when I was watching the podcast. He was talking about defensive players such as that. You got to eliminate the fat. The F around time. You don't have time to be dribbling the ball and doing all types of goofy stuff that you would do against normal defenders or against somebody like myself when you got a Marcus Smart or a Jrue Holiday on you. You know what I mean? Because their talent level and skill set is going to be that of which takes the ball from you. You can't do certain things. You got to shorten your margin of error. You got to keep it simple, stupid, and you got to be very efficient and focused at all times. And if you don't shave off that fat, they will capitalize. And I'm telling you, Andrew Nembhard, for all that he did right in that game, that last turnover was preventable. You got to give the ball up, and you can't do too much dribbling around a guy like Jrue Holiday, or he's going to take the ball from you. He's one of the main people in this league that you think of when considering that type of thing. So Nembhard learned a hard lesson. He's still a young player. You could clearly see what his upside is. But for all the good that he did, I could argue he was just as much of a problem in that situation as Carlisle was in Game 1. You just got to get a ball up. Work the ball around to somebody who's not more likely to make a great play in a great moment on the defensive end. So the Pacers just ain't ready. They're not going to be ready, if you ask me. They got some things they need to do to their roster to make it a little better, but I don't think the roster's a problem. I look at Carlisle and say, man, until you, one, become a better decision maker, or two, start making it so that this team respects the defensive end much more than they do, you ain't winning nothing. And that's really what it comes down to. Hey, friends, you gotta respect the defensive end to some degree. You can be the best offensive team in the world, but if you're going up against a team that can match you offensively, which the Boston Celtics did a fantastic job of doing, you ain't gonna get your butt whipped. Down the stretch of the basketball game, just like the Lakers and the Nuggets in the last 3 minutes, where the Nuggets win 11 straight, and the Lakers had leads in each one of them games. It's because the Lakers couldn't close out. They didn't shave off the fat. And as a result, down the stretch of these games, they didn't execute better than a better shooting, better rebounding basketball team. So that's what these playoffs are showing me, man. You can have all the best stuff, but if you don't shave the fat when necessary, make good decisions when necessary, have the right philosophies about yourself that play into your favor, then the other team that doesn't have that problem is going to beat you. And so tonight, as I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, the one thing they got to try to shake off and figure out is how to get Anthony Edwards going. How do you get him going? Because just like I said, we're seeing they're putting big bodies on Anthony Edwards and making it so that he can't turn the corner and drive where he needs to in order to get to the line, score, and things of that nature. He can shoot threes all day long. He's a good three-point shooter, but he ain't a great one, so you don't want him parking it from behind the arc. That doesn't provide the dynamic that the Minnesota Timberwolves need from him to create space for others. He needs to get to the rim. And if they keep putting big bodies at him at every turn, it's been successful in doing so. He's not able to turn the corner and get that pressure going on the rim. So he's been largely ineffective at home in this series. And we need to see if he can change that dynamic going into Dallas tonight, or he's going to be down 0-3 just like the Pacers are. I think that's going to be the key. Also, can Karl-Anthony Towns have a bounce-back game? They're going to need a signature Karl Towns game tonight. He had a very bad game in the last one, but he got plenty of rest because of it. Coach did a good job of removing him from the game and allowed the hot hand Naz Reid to stay out there. He scored a bunch of, had like 8 threes out there. I don't expect Naz to play that well again. They're going to need Karl to bring that type of production tonight. And, you know, I'd imagine that you're going to continue to see Luka Doncic kind of struggle with his knee. He's dealing with multiple injuries, and he's just being a real trooper throughout that process. I think it would help a great deal if they can go up 3-0 on this Timberwolves team so that they can buy him some rest before the next round. If the series extends, I'm worried about his longevity finishing out these playoffs. They're going to have to find him some rest, and I don't know that they can afford to do so at all. So the shorter the series, the better for him. This is a very crucial basketball game for that reason. And, you know, and that's really what it comes down to. Karl Towns and Ant-Man cannot struggle like this, like they did in game 2, rather. That cannot happen again in this series. There's no margin for error for them to have poor shooting nights. They have to play well. Naz Reid's going to have to continue to play well, and they're going to have to turn up the defense again. Obviously, there's things that, you know, the Mavericks have done to shut them down. But the best defense I've seen played this year was from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I ain't seen that in this series. They haven't done a good job of shutting down people on the other end. In fact, I think their defense has been about as poor in this series as it's been all playoffs. So if Minnesota can't find a way to play some defense against this Dallas Mavericks team, then it's going to be a short series. It's going to be a short series. And so that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. Can we see some defense being played by these two teams? And if so, which team is going to be able to execute down the stretch in a close game situation? The team who seemingly has their back against the wall, or the team that desperately needs to buy rest? So they should, if they have the urgency in them, play as if their back's against the wall too. Because I'm telling you, if they let the Minnesota Timberwolves win this game and the next one, the series is going to shift back into Minnesota's favor off of the strength of Luka's health. He does not need to be playing extra basketball. I don't know he'll make it through a 7-game series. He needs rest bad. And so the only way they're going to get is if they shorten this series. So the urgency is up for both teams, in my opinion. And, you know, you got to assume Minnesota's going to get their pound of flesh at some point in this series. So I don't know if it'll be tonight. It better be tonight for their sake. But one thing's for certain. They have to get Anthony Edwards going. So that's pretty much my take, man. I'm looking forward to this game tonight. I think it's at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. I believe that's how that's set up. Check for yourselves just in case. I think it is game 3 that's slotted earlier than usual. Both game 3s in the conference finals are a different time than the rest of them. So I think this one might be at 5 or something like that. But nevertheless, we'll be ready. And looking forward to a great matchup, man. This one could be one for the ages. Dallas is going to be jumping for sure. Kyrie and all those guys, they're going to have to make up for Luka hobbling around. Even though he's been playing good, he's not getting healthier as these playoffs play along. So they're going to need PJ to snap out of his little mini slump. And they're going to need to get something out of the rest of these guys to end this series early. So that's really what it is, man. Gafford and Lively have been excellent in this series. I wonder if there's going to be some type of adjustment to try to slow those guys down for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They had better be, because they ain't missing much. They're getting easy lobs, easy buckets, and their confidence is growing. And these are young, spry legs. A guy like Lively ain't been playing all season, so he's about as healthy as anybody down there. So that is something that I'm paying attention to. Derek Lively continue to play as well as he has. I'd imagine he ain't going to play no worse at home as he did playing fantastic on the road. So, yeah, tough situation for the Timberwolves, man. Those energetic bigs are a problem. Luka Doncic is always a problem. Kyrie Irving, always a problem. And Derrick Jones Jr. creates so much of a nightmare for the Minnesota Timberwolves, just being so capable and so defensive minded out there. So yeah, man, excited about this series, wondering if it's going to extend. That's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.